Hey, Gary's Gulch, welcome back. Hey, I took a couple weeks off. Frankly, last week, I didn't even know what to think and had no chance that I was actually going to be able to produce a podcast. I was reeling, if you will, from the current events and just trying to make sense of all of it. And I think there were a lot of other people out there doing that too. So thanks for your grace and allowing me to take a little bit of a break. So some of you that looked deeply at the title of this episode may be thinking, gosh, I think you misspelled the word profit, P-R-O-F-I-T. That kind of goes with lowering interest rates and what I typically talk about business and real estate and how to set up your financial life for success. You would think we'd be talking about the profit, F-I-T-S version of this, but actually, no, I'm not. I'm talking about prophets as in prophecy. Those that go out and share God's message as a conduit between Him and the rest of us. And the reason I'm talking about that is because of the crazy, sad, historic events that happened around Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a prophet from God, and he died the death of a typical prophet. All of the apostles died a painful death at the hands of people around them, the mob, that didn't want the world to know what these people said and couldn't stand to hear it themselves because they couldn't look in a mirror recognizing that actually what these people were saying was true and they didn't want it to be true. And you know, I guess I should correct that. Apostle John, at least, you know, history is a little bit unclear here, but it seems that he died actually of old age on an island in the Mediterranean, I think. And he did so, though, after miraculously surviving a cauldron, being thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil in Greece, which is now a part of Turkey. And I don't know how you survive that. Only God, I guess, can make that happen. But I guess John did technically survive that, but he was tried to be martyred just like everybody else out there. All of the other apostles and prophets who speak things that people don't want to hear end up taking a bullet. And that's what happened to Charlie. And it was a crazy week. I know people who were standing there right next to him that were in the crowd. It was crazy. I felt like in these last 2 weeks that I lost a very close friend. And I never met Charlie Kirk in person. I've listened to most things he said. And I've heard a lot of people say actually on the crazy left, say a lot of things that Charlie said that Charlie didn't say. I mean, I went back and tried to find all these things, and they have been blown out of proportion, just like, you know, President Trump saying there are fine people on both sides and all these other crazy things that the left and the media owned by them gets people out there in America to think without actually going and checking it. AI is not going to help that. I'm sure you've already figured that out. And so, you know, I mean, it was a historic example of truly just good versus evil. I mean, a deeply disturbed man didn't like facing the truths coming out of Charlie's mouth. And so instead of facing those facts, he silenced him, just like all the prophets were silenced. And there were a lot of people, like I said, that got deeply triggered, crazily triggered. A lot of them are in Congress, and a lot of them are in the media, and a lot of them are night show hosts. And you know who all these people are. Why did they get so triggered about what Charlie Kirk was saying and that all of the world was rising up in support of Charlie Kirk? Why? Because again, they don't want that message to be truth. And if they can avoid it and pretend it doesn't happen, then they don't have to be held accountable for their actions, their hate, their divisiveness, and their rejection of God. So let me ask you, have you ever been triggered? Of course you have. We all have. So what do you do when you get triggered? Triggering is one of two words that I stopped using in the craziness of the woke world that ended, or the woke era that followed COVID, and thankfully we just passed through and are behind. Triggered is a way of blaming other people for your inability to control yourself, or why you are feeling how you are feeling. You want to project that on somebody else so that it makes you feel better, and you don't have to be, you know, held accountable. You don't have to be responsible for it. The other word, by the way, is transition. You know, it used to be a very common thing to post on LinkedIn that you're a transitioning member of the military. And I don't recommend you do that anymore. It does not get a great response, as I'm sure you can imagine. You know, it was signaling that we have a desire for an exciting new career, that we are a motivated person with proven experience who is ready to go help. And today, it's a bad idea and will bring you the wrong kind of help if you go broadcast that you're a transitioning member of the military or new retiree. So how do you avoid being triggered? How do you do that? Well, the answer is simple. But I'll admit it's not easy to do. So there are a lot of things that are simple, but not easy to actually get yourself to do. I mean, in the end, it's a choice. We'll talk more about this at the end. But the other person didn't actually do anything to you when you get triggered, in most cases, right? In most cases, they were words. You heard them say something, you saw them do something, you experienced something about them, and it triggers you. It causes you to fly off the handle, have all kinds of emotions, and rage builds up inside you. Why is that? Because you see it as an insult or an attack upon you as a person. Because you are so responsive to what other people and so influenced by what other people do around you that it causes you to, take a hard right turn off of the path that you were on, and you get all engrossed in this. Listen, I've been there. I can tell you, though, that one of my huge successes in life is that I am very efficiently getting off of that. I mean, it's been a 2 or 3 year journey of mine. It's been one of my goals to not respond. I remember the great Zig Ziglar once said, or not react, excuse me. The great Zig Ziglar said, you need to respond to what happens to you in life, not react to what happens to you in life. If somebody cuts you off, reacting is flying off the handle, trying to hit them and swerve and knock them off the road. Responding is adjusting, because now there's somebody much closer. You need to back off the gas, maybe change lanes, maybe pull off on the side and let it go by. Get your calmness back and then move on about your day, right? It's changing because the world around you has changed. Zig would say that you don't want to react, because if your doctor gives you a new medication and you start reacting to it, having a reaction, that's bad. But if you're responding to the medication, then that's actually what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to improve because of some influence that's been put on you. And so triggering is all about just is not controlling your emotions. And I shouldn't say controlling, because controlling your emotions is like controlling your diet. Like it requires constant force and attention, and it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable to say those cookies are there, but I'm not going to eat them ever, right? Like it just doesn't last forever. And the same thing about controlling your emotions. That's not the solution. The solution is understanding that you just need to focus on what my wonderful coach and friend, dear friend Tammy, calls the skylight, not the windows, the doors and windows. And so imagine you're in this house and it's filled with all kinds of light coming from all directions. And the light that reflects and comes in through the windows is somewhat, it gets your attention. It's sparkly and it's reflecting off things, and you see it and you pay attention to it, and that's you paying attention to all the worldly things, all the other people, the media, the social media, television, the people at work, the person who cuts you off and flips you off, and the people who yell, and all this stuff. That's you listening to the doors and windows. But there's a skylight of beautiful, warming, calm, quiet, patient light. And all you have to do to not get triggered by the doors and windows is to look at the skylight. Look at the skylight and remember how grateful you are for the wonderful things that you have in your life. And that is how you don't get triggered by that stuff. I'm telling you, today I can spill coffee all over my computer. I can get stuff all over my clothes. I can get a flat tire when I'm already late. And those things are just things that happen. And I don't react. I respond. I say, okay, well, here's, that happened. That's in the past. Now this is what we're going to do about it, right? And the emotions don't come up. I can't say that every time. My son Jake would tell you, not every time, Dad. Sometimes you get mad and I lose. I kind of, fly off the handle a little bit. But I'm very quick to realize it's happening to me, and I get back on the path. But most of the time, thankfully, it just doesn't happen. I just don't see those as bad things that just happen to me. They're just life, and it's what I'm experiencing, right? Like, you ought to be able to walk out of the house when you think it's the sun shining and you see that it just started raining, and be able to just turn around and go back and get your umbrella. It doesn't have to be the end of your day, right? You don't have to be in a bad day already because of that. So just remember that. Please respond like to medication, the desired effect, not react, freaking out because somebody has just peed in your Wheaties. I don't know where that phrase came from, so I don't know. It just seemed to fit at that moment. let's talk a moment about good versus evil and how it proves that God actually exists, okay? And I'm telling you the financial stuff's coming, but I just want to get through this one piece. Right, this is credit to the great Charlie Kirk, and I think it's one of the most profound things that he taught me. I have just binged on all things, all messages of Charlie Kirk, and try to understand through the Bible and preaching. It's like, why did all of this happen? And so again, I appreciate your patience in me just going offline for a while. But Charlie made a great example here about how good and evil prove that God actually exists. I mean, if you can actually just distinguish the difference in the outcomes and say that one thing is good and one thing is bad, or it's really evil, then you are acknowledging that God exists. There's no other reason. Like without goodness, without the beauty that God creates on our planet, the wonderful miracles that have been experienced throughout world history, just the beauty of birth, and love and compassion and optimism, like those things are clearly good. And birds chirping in the morning, a beautiful sunset, those are clear indications that there is good. And good means that God exists and God makes those things happen. It's a clear connection. And people who don't believe in God don't even acknowledge that there is one. They don't understand the difference between good and evil. I mean, killing humans is like killing an animal or a mosquito that just landed on you. There is no difference. The only way, Christians in the West are what populated the world to be able to even understand what good and evil are. I mean, think about the Dark Ages and think about how crazy, gruesome things that we would never even believe possible that a human could do today, because we understand good and evil, because we know there is a God. And when you understand what goodness is, you can look at other things and say they're evil. What Charlie Kirk was doing by patiently having conversations with people and answering their questions and trying to get them perhaps to see another side, and sometimes they got him to see the other side. So it worked both ways, but it was done with compassion and never a desire to prove the other person wrong, to make them feel bad, to win over them. That was not the thing. And then you see this stark example of just pure, brutal evil when that bullet strikes him, and you find out the history and the background of this young man, or the man that took his life. And so that was just an incredible, incredible example of that. And then we fast forward to Sunday for the memorial for Charlie Kirk. Nearly 100,000 people, a completely full stadium in Phoenix. All these amazing words and all these amazing people have changed their lives in the wake of this crazy event. And then Erika Kirk gets up in front of the entire world and forgives Charlie's killer. And again, that stuff doesn't happen without there being a God. And in the 2 weeks that separated those two events, what happened? There were all kinds of midnight vigils, and there were people praying nonstop for Charlie and his family and our country to try to come out of this a healed nation, on a path back to our roots of freedom and agency, community, and prosperity. And then there were people who were going around and destroying these vigils and these memorials, and going on television and spewing hate, and how he was a Nazi and all of these crazy things. And so again, it's just evil versus good. I'm not saying their side and our side. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that people were praying, and they were donating, and they were volunteering, and they were doing what they could, but they did not pick up their arms and go after the people who had just offended. This isn't one biker gang after another, or one drug lord, or one drug gang against another. This is God-fearing, compassionate people who want to bring America back together, and evil, just pure evil, that is working against it. The beautiful thing about this is that these events have awoken a Christian revival of goodness that we've only begun to understand or experience. Before Charlie was killed, Turning Point USA, the company, had roughly 2,000 requests to join a TPUSA chapter or start one. And now today, less than 2 weeks later, there's nearly 100,000 requests globally, not just in America. Charlie texted his team a few weeks before his demise, and there was a picture of a full football stadium. And he said, "This is my vision, to fill a football stadium with Americans seeking a closer relationship with their maker and to return America to its roots of freedom and agency." Well, Charlie got exactly that on Sunday in Phoenix, and it was incredible to watch. Incredible. So I hope you join me and take Prophet Charlie's untimely death to be proof that God is with us. And it's a reminder that we can do so much more in our lifetime to better the world around us. I mean, think what that young man did in his 31 years. I've got almost 2 times that on this planet, and pale in comparison. And take it as an understanding that this all starts with seeking to learn more about our differences and coming together with curious and loving conversation, not through hate and war and trying to win and get rid of your opponent. Okay, so I promised events, current events, and that was by far the biggest current event in my life and in America for many, many people these past 2 weeks. And I thank you again for allowing me to take a bit of a pause. But it's not the only huge event, right? I mean, the Federal Reserve finally reduced rates, which doesn't necessarily mean mortgage rates come down, but they did, and they probably will still a little bit more. Does that mean immediately that we have a housing boom? I don't think so. I mean, we had housing prices nearly double right after COVID, and because all large assets go up in value first when there is inflation. So you see art and houses and boats and and all other kinds of exotic cars and stuff go up in value because the people who have collected the money that's coming into the economy being printed, etc., they want to store it in something that holds its value. And so all the housing went up and the rents haven't caught up and people's income haven't yet caught up. And so it's going to take a bit of time for that to happen. Yes, people can go and they can refinance their properties. And maybe some young people can now make a go with these higher prices because the payment is lower with lower interest rates. But it's not a huge change in the interest rates. And these prices were so high. Trust me, I know this very well in Cape Coral, Florida. Many of my properties are worth less than I paid to build them, and I went through 2 years worth of work to build them. I mean, it's painful right now, but that's another nice reminder to maintain a lot of liquidity and maintain the big picture. I'm extremely grateful to have the resources to be able to provide all of these amazing resort houses for people and the workforce housing that I provide in other cities, and have the ability to play around with them and work on them and maintain them. I actually truly enjoy that as an outlet. For sitting in my office and talking virtually with people. I love to get around people and actually do things with my hands, and so I'm grateful for that opportunity, and I'm grateful that I have the resources to be able to hold on to these properties until things turn around and they cash flow and we're profitable. Okay, so what else has happened? So President Trump announced nearly $17 trillion in investment in America, and that there were over 2 million people who have self-deported back out of the United States, illegal aliens in America, and obviously we've taken out the most dangerous and violent of them under force out of the country. And so that opens up a whole lot of opportunity, new jobs and factories being built, and less people here taking those jobs. Lots of opportunity for Americans. And so those wages are going up, and it is going to fix the housing issue over time. The question is, can we do that without causing inflation to go back up and having to raise rates again? I mean, that's what happened in the late 70s, early 80s. We lowered rates too early, and inflation came back roaring with a vengeance, and we had to go way high, and that caused us to lose our farm. And you've heard all those stories, right? That's where stagflation came from. So is it possible? Yeah, it is possible to provide more and more goods than you are flooding the economy with wages, increased wages and profits. You can grow your way out of this. It's not that easy, but it can be done, and it has been done. And I think if there's anybody who can make it happen, President Trump is that guy and this team that he's built around him. I had celebrating your wins. So I had a client, Joel, right before I started to broadcast this one. he said, "Hey, Gary, I really appreciate all the lessons and how you've taught us all of that, but what I want to hear from you are your wins. I want to hear the wins." And I think it's just, Joel is a great example of America right now. Like, we want to hear the good news, not just the pain, right? Not just all of the trepidation and the business owners refusing to move forward because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, we want to see the optimism and the good stuff. So, okay, fair enough, Joel. You've been an incredible guy. So here we go. Let's go back when I was a kid. I led a Key Club, which is a service organization, high school service organization, to #1 in the nation when I was in high school. What an incredible ride, and it was an amazing experience. Working with some of the most incredible people and best charities out there in our country. I got valedictorian of my high school class, and years later, a few years ago, I was recognized as a distinguished graduate of my high school, and that was a lot of fun. I did the same thing with my Catholic grade school, and just very rewarding, and very grateful for all that. I went to the Naval Academy, nearly failed out twice, but I clawed my way back, and I made top 10% before graduation, and I was accepted in the Nuclear Submarine Force, which takes about the top 10%. I had many hard but prestigious successes and positions that I'd held in the Navy on my way to command, and then I got the opportunity to command a beautiful, shiny, recently refurbished submarine. It was about 10 years old, the USS Tucson in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and I had the opportunity to take a very green crew, but a very committed crew, and get them ready to deploy into the Pacific. And we came back the most decorated Pacific deployed submarine that year, actually for several years going back, and it was amazing. It was wonderful. I then went and worked at the Naval Academy, and well above my pay grade, for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the Pentagon for a few years. Again, amazing. And then I finished things where I started at the Naval Academy. Had the opportunity to be the senior submarine mentor for midshipmen interested in going submarines, and I was also their ethics instructor, and both very rewarding. And what an amazing way to end 26 years after I threw my hat up in the air and started the career as an officer. In the financial world, I think that's probably what Joel was actually talking about, is give me your financial wins. Well, let's start the measuring stick at the beginning of the Naval Academy. I started USNA with a negative $2,000 net worth. I had to take a loan just to buy uniforms and books. I then put everything that I made in the roaring markets of the 90s and the 2000s. And I was almost a millionaire when I took command of my submarine. But I don't take credit for that, other than preventing my lifestyle from keeping up with the bonuses and the pay raises along the way. It allowed me lots of investment money, and I put it in the markets and gave it to people I didn't know. And they did things with it that I didn't know, and ended up nearly a millionaire. But then, at the end of my command tour, I was also less than half that wealthy. And again, I didn't know why any of that happened. And it was just simply gambling. And I don't take any joy or pride in having done that, because it really wasn't me. I just, I created the opportunity by not spending everything that I brought in. I also got the great memory of, easy come, easy go. But this time around in 2011, I started out with agency and control, and I put all of my stuff into businesses and real estate that I personally owned. The absolute best decision I made was to bet on myself. In starting a business, a service business in the financial services world where I knew people needed help, and betting that I would be decent at giving them what they want, meaning sales. And I was, and it was incredibly gratifying to see people respond to the ideas and the recommendations that I made for them. And I doubled my revenue of my company every year for multiple years in a row. I was the top producer for several companies that I've worked with and alongside. And it was incredible. When you bet on yourself and it's successful, there is no greater feeling in this world, I think, other than realizing that it's God that's making this all happen, and acknowledging that and taking advice from that beautiful skylight. And I did take personal credit for all that stuff then. I was not quite as mature as today. And I thought I could do no wrong, and I threw all my money into these syndications in Tier 3, and I gave my money to other people to grow it even faster for me because I believed their pitch and ended up losing probably half of it again. And I went back to directly being in control. And so when I'm talking with you and I'm making the recommendation that you focus on businesses and real estate and things, assets that you personally own, directly control, it comes from experience in all these different asset classes multiple times, and I deeply believe and know in my gut and in my heart that only way to ensure success is to connect with God and believe in yourself. Simply put, I know of no other way that you can guarantee your success and that you will move the football down the field for society and your family and yourself. So those are great, and I've learned a lot and helped others do the same. But they pale in comparison to my biggest win. And my biggest win is that I've realized I'm not in this alone. God is right there. And all we have to do is tune into that skylight that we talked about, God's intentions, not the doors and windows that, what everyone else wants you to know and think and do. And finally, here we are in the podcast. We're back to not getting triggered. Simply respond with gratitude. Don't react to the evil that is all around you. You simply cannot be grateful for all you have, for your relationships with God, and the beautiful, wonderful, smart, loving, and patient woman that I married many years ago, and the two wonderful sons that she gave me, and that have grown to be incredible young men who are starting their own businesses and out there making a difference in their own world. You can't possibly be grateful for all of those things and your relationship and God having your back and still be triggered and mad at somebody for what they have done to you. That is the earth-shattering lesson that Jesus taught us on the cross with "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Somebody in the past would have triggered you. They have done something evil to you. They spit on you. They trashed your name. Forgive them. They know not what they do. Gain gratitude from all the amazing things that you do have, and let that dude who cut you off move on about his day. Jesus taught us that. And Erika Kirk repeated it on Sunday when she forgave the man, the evil person who gunned down her husband while providing service to others and helping them get to a better place. There's so much hope for our world and our people right now. I don't think you could have experienced these last 2 weeks and not come away with that. If you're listening to this podcast, you're not on the evil side. You want to improve. You want to improve your family, your finances, your personal situation, this world, and our country. And I don't think that you could have gone through these 2 weeks without experiencing what I've experienced. It is incredible. I don't think I've ever been more optimistic about the revival of goodness in our country and in this world than I am today. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. I'm as optimistic as I think I have ever been. Yeah? Okay, listen. Gary's Gulch. Until next time, go out with compassion and gratitude and make this world a better place for all of us. I can't wait to see you all on the next Gary's Gulch.